Hi, I'm Eric Kimball, and I'm out here in my Minibed experimental garden. My first year of experimenting with the Minibed gardening system was 2017, and this is 2022 now, so this is my sixth year. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, I'm into my sixth year of gardening experimentation, and what I'm trying to figure out as best I can is planting schemes for optimum placement of different crops in the beds, and the best protocols, the best procedures for making sure that those plants get everything they need, and for making sure that I don't have to go to any more effort or very little effort after those crops are planted. For example, I have a row here of garlic that was planted last fall, and those mini beds, in the spring I pull the leaf mulch off. That's what's on there, leaf mulch that I shredded with my lawnmower. I don't have a leaf shredder anymore, just shred them up a little bit with my lawnmower, and I put that mulch in those beds when I planted those garlic cloves last fall. And in the spring I took the mulch off, let the plants grow up a little bit, and then I put the leaf mulch back in, and that's it until harvest. That's an ideal situation. There will be no weeds, or almost no weeds, that will grow in those mini beds, and certainly no weeds that will grow in the poly mulch around the beds. Do the work and then harvest. That's not always the case, but that's the ideal case. And what I'm going to show you in this video is my protocol, which is in development. I'm doing some things I've been doing in previous years that have been good practice, and I'm going to try a few new things this year. But what I'm going to show you is the planting scheme for peppers, which I have right here, for kale, for broccoli, for celery, and the layout is 4 plants in a mini bed. It's ideal. Those 4 plants have the room they need, the root space they need, and the space above the ground to grow. And if you've seen my mini bed videos where I show some of these pepper beds, in this case, you know that they thrive. They absolutely thrive. So I want to show you and go through what I do with a mini bed and what I'm doing that's new this year. So here I am in the mini bed garden, and I have my beds planted to rye, winter rye. I planted it last year. It's nice and tall. This rye is going to be a very useful mulch in these mini beds when I plant them, as I'll show you. In a previous video, one before last, I showed how I harvested this rye off with a short-handled hoe. It's very easy to do. So what I have done, what I did earlier today, was I cut the rye off of these 7 beds that I'm going to be planting tonight, and I took the fork. Now I have a video that shows how to do this, the digging fork, and I was standing, of course, drove the fork in, and did the cracking of the soil, is what I call it. Not turning the soil over, I'm just going around the perimeter, and I'm lifting, bending, or tilting the handle down and lifting the soil, and I go all the way around the perimeter, and then I get the inside. Okay, so I'm not turning the soil, I'm just cracking it, I'm aerating it. And by going around the perimeter, getting up close here, I'm actually aerating beyond the perimeter of the bed, the immediate perimeter of the bed. I'm coming out here, and when I do that, and I do this once a year, or I try to do it once a year, sometimes I don't on all the beds, but when I do that, I actually lift the bed up, and it kind of raises it from the walkways. And if you were to come into my garden now and go down the walkways, you would see that they go like this. Bed, bed, walkway is like this. So they're kind of raised, all right? That is a good protocol. Now, when I'm doing that in the spring, preparing the bed, I flip the frame over. Okay, this side that's up was down earlier today, and I flipped it up. And before I flipped it over, and before I did that, I went around the perimeter where the frame was, underneath the frame, and soil will get under there over the past months or year, and I just scraped it back into the bed. And then I put the frame back in place, and I watered the bed. These beds were very dry. When I'm planting, I tend to do watering. After the beds are planted, I do almost no watering unless it's extremely dry. And that's one of the beauties of this system, is that there's so much subsoil moisture captured under the poly surrounding these beds that very little watering is needed. And I almost never water. So then I added some water here to the dry soil. I covered it with this mulch. Okay, that was a few hours ago. And now these beds are very nice shape. And I'm going to close up here and show you the procedure for planting these pepper plants. Now what I'm going to do here is space these out. And in the past, when I've spaced them out and planted them, my cats have come and they've dug in here like it's a cat box. And that's very discouraging for me. And so I figured, well, I'll put the rye on. And since I have so much rye this year and it's so tall, and it isn't always the case that I have so much rye, but it's really nice to have. And I could put that on here and that would help keep the cats out. But I got thinking, you know, I've got a lot of cardboard. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this cardboard. Use what you got, right? So these are 5.5 inches. And this is part of this year's experiment. These are 5.5 inches and almost the length, not quite. And so I'm going to space my pepper plants out like that. I've got these little markers here. And I'm going to take this off after doing that. I'm going to put it back on there, but not quite yet. I've got my modified hodag right here. And I'm going to dig a hole for my, there's a rock, look at that rock. When I get the rocks, I throw them out. And you know, earlier today when I was forking in this bed, look at that big one. That's a real erratic for these beds. And when my fork hit that, it presented me with a challenge. I had to dig that thing out of there. So I'm digging these spots, and you can see that the modified hodag with a comfortable handle, that's my previous video by the way, has a nice little divot digger right there for the plants. Got another rock in there. Well, we'll leave that one. Okay, so I'm going to dig these down further than I need to because I'm going to do something else this year that is new. All right, you can see how nice this soil is. It's full of the rye roots, the small rye roots. So I've got 4 good holes, and what I'm going to do is get some of this wonderful charged up biochar, and that was another video I did earlier this year. And I'm going to pour this liquid and char goodness into the bottom of these holes like that. And this is the first year I've used biochar, but I'm pouring that in there like that, and then I am going to add water. Okay, I like to plant in a puddle. That's in my Planet Whiz Bang idea book for gardeners. There's an old excerpt in there talks about planting in a puddle. So I do that. Those holes have got plenty of water in there, right? And I'm going to let it sink in. But I'm also going to add a little bit of soil back into here, like so. And I'm going to give that a little bit of time. And while I'm waiting, I'll get my peppers out. Okay. Come on. There we go. Beautiful. So I'm just going to set these in place. You can see that they've got a good puddle to be in for for the roots to be in. And all right, I'm gonna put that down, get it about the right level with the soil. Okay. If I need to add some underneath, tuck some underneath to get the plant up, I will, like I'm doing here. And then I'm going to firm the soil around the roots. I want to get that soil firmed around those roots, like so. All right. I planted kale and broccoli beds like this, exactly like this, last night. And it was a hot, sunny day, and they did not flag at all. They look beautiful. And these will look great in the hot sun too, because they got all that moisture down there, and they're gonna have more here in a minute. The next thing I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna mulch this with peat moss. Last year I had some peat moss, and I used it for a mulch around some plants, and I noticed at the end of the year and this year in the spring, the soil was so nice. I was at the market where I got these peppers, and I bought a bale of peat moss, and it came with it's not pure peat moss. It turns out it's like a potting mix. It's got perlite bits in there, and that isn't what I thought I was getting. And I read the bag when I got it home, and it has some lime in it. So, well, whatever. This isn't pure peat moss, but it's mostly peat moss. And I'm going to put a layer of this all around these, okay? Because I like what it did to my mini beds where I used it last year. So I've got a nice layer of this peat moss down to act as kind of a soil conditioner. As far as fertilizer goes, I'm not doing too much here. I'm going to let the roots in the soil feed the microbiology, the rye roots that are in this soil. I'm going to add a little bit of kelp meal here on the top. I just spread it on the top. And that's it for now. I am going to thoroughly water this before. I'm kind of watering the peat moss, and I'm getting moisture in. If you want biological action, you want some activity, good activity with the biology, you got to have some moist soil. And we want the bioherd to be happy, so I'm adding lots of water. Like I said, I don't do much watering later, but we make sure we got good water now. And now I'm going to put in my cardboard. And my expectation is that this cardboard, my indexing pins are in the way. Problem solved. Now if I just put the cardboard down like this, and by the way, I have a lot of cardboard, so this is no problem. I'm using what I've got, okay? So that, I'm going to do that, and I think I'm going to water over it a little bit more, and then I'll tell you about the cardboard. All right, and what I want to tell you about the cardboard is, if all I did was put that cardboard in there like that, it would dry out and curl up, and it would not look very good, and it would not, I don't think, serve the purpose. So what I'm doing is putting my rye that I harvested off this earlier today right over the cardboard. And I got to reach over here and grab it. Okay. And I'll just distribute what rye I have here. And then as the season progresses, I will find more mulch material around my yard, grass clippings and the like, and I'll add mulch to this. But this is like an initial mulch, and it will suppress the weeds, and it will keep that cardboard, I think, this is part of the experiment, from curling up and not looking so neat. So, all right, there, I've done it. I've planted this bed. These pepper plants are going to have lots of moisture, lots of root space. They're going to have fertility, and they're not going to have weed competition. These peppers are going to do great. All right, so you've got the concept here, the protocols, the experimental aspects, putting the cardboard in, putting the biochar in the bottom. That's kind of new this year. That's it, folks. That's my story on how to plant peppers in a mini bed. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.